Today's video, I want to talk to you guys about what I feel is the most important tool in fly tying and the most important tool you can have on your bench, and that is scissors. Now, a lot of people think a vise is important way more than scissors, and there's a little bit of truth to that, but you can take a cheap vise like a double A and you can tie a good fly and cut it with good scissors and everything turns out good. You can take a good vise and a bad pair of scissors and you can murder a fly that just absolutely looks horrible. So you want a good pair of scissors. They're just, as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing. If you're going to spend good money at your fly tying bench on one thing, make it your scissors and then your vise. So I'm going to show you guys what I feel is the bad options and then my favorite options and then multiple things that I use. So I have a little rack that I use to hold all my scissors on, and on that has some hemostats, some wire cutters, and different things like that. So I'm going to show that to you, and I'm going to show you kind of what each item is. So this is a little rack I got. I use this to hang on my scissors. This little thing I got at the Dollar Tree. So for $1.25, you can get this little rack, and it's handy as can be. You can see what you're getting. They're hanging out of the way. You can get to them. It works out really well. So first things first. This is kind of the first pair of scissors that I started with, or something very similar to this. And these come in your little sewing kits, you know, that you buy, like little travel sewing kits. And these things are pretty much garbage. They don't have a sharp edge. You know, it's a blunt cut, and you're really struggling to cut stuff. So if you want a really fine, detailed cut, or you're wanting to try to cut with the tips of a scissors, these things don't work for crap. Don't waste your money. A good pair of scissors is not that expensive. So a lot of people try these. And these are the little curved scissors that come in like toenail trimming kits. And you can just see they're just junk. You can look at how crooked and bent they are. They're absolutely junk. Do not buy these cheap knockoff scissors. Get a good pair of scissors. So I'm going to show you guys what I feel is the best. Now, there's people going to argue. Everybody argues about everything on the internet. But I'm going to show you what I feel is the best pair of scissors. I tie dozens of flies a day, sometimes hundreds, and there's days that I've sat down and I've tied 1,000 flies, you know, just running through like trash flies, like mops and stuff like that. But I have to tie a little bit of everything, whatever's selling. So I go through a lot of materials, and when you're going through a lot of materials, that means you're making a lot of cuts. These scissors right here are the same pair of scissors that I've been using for about a decade. They're the hands down best pair of scissors I've ever owned. I love these things. So if anybody from Anvil is watching, send me some. They're awesome. They're made by Anvil. These things are, there's no better pair of scissors on the market for fly tying as far as I'm concerned. There may be, but for the price, you're not going to get anything. These things have a curved blade. They stay tight. They're super sharp all the way to the tip. Hands down, the best pair of fly tying scissors I've ever used. Now, I can put these things on my hands when I'm tying, so I can tie and I can cut and I can keep motion going. So if you can eliminate the step of having to pick your scissors up and tie this way, you're going to speed things up and you're going to be able to get your production up 30 to 40%. I've actually tried the test to see, and I'm probably 30% faster with scissors in my hands than I am without. Now, with that being said, don't cut anything but soft materials with a good pair of scissors. A lot of guys will say that they use the tips of their scissors to cut soft materials, and then they cut wires and stuff like that down at the back of the jaw. You can do that, but if you do that, the back of your jaw is going to start getting rough, and when it does, it spreads that scissor open to where you don't get the good cut that you would normally get with these scissors. So use these things for soft materials only. Cutting feathers, cutting chenille, cutting thread, stuff like that. A little bit of craft foam probably won't hurt, but use these for soft materials. They are the best pair of scissors ever. My second favorite pair of scissors, if I'm sitting down all day tying, I'll usually go to these. These are made by Terra, and they're straight jawed. If they were curved, I'd use them all the time, but they're straight jawed, but they have giant finger holes, so they're really comfortable to tie. So if I'm sitting there tying and I want to keep my hands comfortable, you kind of almost can't even tell these are here. They work really, really well. A great pair of scissors. These things are several years old as well, and they stay super sharp. Now, I say they stay super sharp. I don't cut crap with these, but soft materials. So if you take care of your stuff, it'll last forever. So with that being said, if I'm cutting wire or tinsel or something like that, I use specialty tools for those things. So if I'm cutting a piece of wire, I got a pair of wire cutters. These are little bitty jeweler's wire cutters, and they're flush on the edge here. So when you're cutting, it cuts exactly sharp that there is. They got a pretty sharp point where you can get right up there and cut, and it prevents from getting any kind of damage on scissors. They're jewelers, so they're made to cut little small things. You can see how old and green these things are. I've had these things forever. Like they've worked for me, and I use them all the time. Now, something else that I keep on this rack are hemostats. Now, these are actually fisherman's hemostats, and I use these pretty often. I do a lot of Euro jigs and stuff. So when I'm painting a Euro jig, I take my little jig head and I'll clamp that in my hemostats. So if you clamp it like that, if you're hand painting them with a brush, or if you're heating them up on a candle and powder coating them, it keeps the eye of the hook clean to where you don't have to worry about cleaning the eye of the hook. It works really, really well. So I use these things pretty often for that. I also carry these on my fly bag when I'm out fishing, my carrying box with all the stuff. I have a pair of these on a lanyard, and I have an extra pair in the bag because you always need them, because these actually have a pair of scissors inside the jaw. So I can use the hemostats to hold my hook to extract a hook out of a fish's mouth, but I can also use these scissors to cut line if I need to, and they work really well. They're a really, really awesome set. Now, I also have friends who are doctors, and I always try to, get some good stuff from them, because they get some good surgical scissors and some good surgical hemostats. And I like these for when I'm painting my jig heads here, because they're just a smoother, faster jaw, and they're actually medical grade. With that being said, they're stainless steel. So if I'm holding my jig head and I get paint on these, stainless steel is one of the strongest metals that there are. You've seen in another video where I have a block of wood with a Brillo pad in it, and that's how you can kind of clean your bodkin out. Well, you can do the same thing with these if you get paint on them, or super glue, or epoxy, anything. Just stick them in there and whack them around inside there, and they will polish right back up to new. The stainless steel is way harder than the copper that's inside, so they'll last forever. It doesn't wear them out at all. Now, if you get super glue or something like that on your scissors, you can do that same thing if you keep your scissors closed when you're poking it in and out, and it'll help clean it up. I don't do that because it's a little bit rough, but you could. So what I do is I have a little coin, like the little plastic tubes that you put quarters in, and I'll dump acetone up to the point of the metal of my scissors, and I'll just dangle them in there, and after a minute or two, all the stuff that gets on your scissors will come off, and then you can wipe them clean, and it keeps them clean as can be, and you don't have any problems. So them are the main scissors that I use on my bench. And I got one more pair of scissors that I use often because I tie so much stuff in bulk. So mop flies in our area, everybody fishes them, so I get stuck tying a bunch of them. And you can buy these big bathroom area rugs that have thousands of them in there, but if you try to cut them with scissors, the crap's hard as can be. So in my former life, I was a cop, and I was in the Army, and I took medic school there. And then I actually went to EMT school as a cop. I carried a medic bag with me all the time because I was usually the first guy to get to a scene. So with that said, I have a good pair of medic shears. These things are the greatest pair of scissors you'll ever own for what they're intended to do. I have responded to I don't know how many wrecks in my life where somebody was bloodied up and we had to cut them loose and get whatever. You could cut through seat belts, you could cut through leather belts, you could cut their boots off, jeans, absolutely any heavy duty material that there is. These things will cut right through it. They're amazing, they're tough, they're durable. Now they make some cheap ones. Don't get a cheap pair, get the best pair you can afford. A good pair is probably 30-40 bucks. A mediocre pair is probably 15. Don't go buy the cheap one, get you a good pair of these. So like bucktails, I tie a lot of like Clouser minnows and stuff like that, and I like to separate my hair off of the different colors. So if it's natural, I cut the white off of the brown. If it's dyed, I cut the color off of the brown. And all I do is I comb them fibers apart where I can see the leather and separate through, and I can just cut right through that leather with these things. Them rugs, you can cut, just dice right through them with these. These are as tough of a pair of scissors as you will ever get. Now, they're not good for something that you're actually doing on the bench. They're good for cutting through big materials. And, if you guys know taxidermists, man, you can get all kinds of different furs and different things that are on hides, and you can get these things and you can cut them up into little squares. And it's a safer, better way to go. If you're using a pair of scissors that's not designed for that, or if you're using a razor blade or something like that, you're going to end up having an accident cutting yourself, and this is the tool that's made for it. It's safe and super tough. These things work great for those materials. So that kind of covers what I use as far as scissors and hemostats on my bench. There's a million options out there, and everybody has their own opinion. This is my opinion. I've been tying for decades, and this is what's worked for me. So I hope this helps, and I hope this gives you guys some ideas for some better scissors and to kind of take care of your scissors. And if you're cutting through bulk stuff, you can't beat a pair of medic shears. So hope this helps. We'll see you in the next video.